Welcome, everyone. The time is 7 p.m. and I'd like to call our meeting to order. I'd like to ask everybody to stand and participate in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for attending our meeting tonight. We're excited to have all of you here and excited to be having our last board meeting for the 2023 year. So our first matter of business is public hearing on our 2023 property tax levy. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to Director Brian Stashak.
Thank you, President Albert. As part of this particular hearing and in accordance with Public Act 1020895, we are required to disclose the cash balances of the district at 2 times of the year. One is when we adopt the budget, and the second one is when we adopt the levy. So that is in the packet. I'll just quickly read off the numbers here. The balance, and again, these are from November 30th of 2023. The Education Fund, $24,323,262.60. Operations and Maintenance Fund, $9,970,096.47. Bond and Interest Fund, $2,124,648.94. Transportation Fund, $5,194,965.24. The IMRF Social Security Fund, $927,889.70. Site and Construction Fund, $1,763,439.91. And the Working Cash Fund, which is the final fund, $18,649,383.62. And I'd like to add that the Working Cash Fund, the balance there has increased by roughly $14.2 million since we last talked about it, because we had the first of 2 bond sales last month, and we closed on that. The second one actually will be tomorrow, and we'll be adding more to this in the future, but we'll talk more about that as we go through it.
Okay, excellent. So at this time, I'd like to open the hearing for the 2023 property tax levy. Do we have anyone wishing to comment on the levy? Okay, seeing as though there is no participation for the levy, I'd like to ask for a motion to close the hearing on the 2023 property tax levy.
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Aye.
Second by Elvia. Marilyn, will you please call the roll?
Member Dillon?
Yes.
Member Gretsch?
Yes.
Member Nava?
Yes.
Member Thomas?
Yes.
Member Alvarez?
Yes.
Member Vita Daniels?
Yes.
Member Albert?
Yes. Great. Next, we will have public participation. Once again, thanks to all of you for attending tonight's meeting. As is the case with all of our meetings, there are 2 opportunities for the public to share their comments with the Board of Education, one now and one prior to the adjournment of our meeting. For our first public comment session, we will be listening to those comments from any audience members who have signed up to speak before the start of our meeting. Marilyn, do we have anybody signed up to speak?
We don't have anyone signed up, so we will begin with LTEA President Andrew Johannes.
Perfect. Hi, Andrew, welcome.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Hello, everyone. It is hard to believe, but we have reached the end of the semester. First semester ends on Friday, and the teachers and students are busy preparing for the end of the term. We've had many great accomplishments, and we are excited to see what great things our students will accomplish in the coming months. Many students are starting to get their acceptance letters, and we wish them the best, especially Sophia, so congratulations.
Thank you.
The teachers would like to thank the para-educators for all their hard work during the school year. They are an integral piece of the educational puzzle here at LT, and I know we'll be honoring one later tonight. We should also like to recognize the importance of the administrative assistants, SAs, the tech, and B&G. Without their support, the school would not function. 2 teachers I'd like to highlight are Patty Cryer and Dawn Sox-Stellis in their Child Development 1 and 2 classes, which runs the Little Lyons Preschool. The fall session ran since October, 4 days a week at both North and South Campus. All students in the classes had the opportunity to teach preschoolers from the LT community 4 times. They researched, prepared, and taught lessons in curricular areas such as math, science, music, large motor, art, and storytelling. This is a great way for LT students to get experience with early education. Preparations are already underway for the spring sessions to begin in March. Information will be on the LT website for any parents interested in sending their preschoolers to the Little Lions in the spring. There are many teachers being honored tonight. The diversity of the programs illustrate the fantastic talents of the faculty and their commitment to the students. It is amazing that the amount of courses and extracurricular activities we offer to the students. This starts with the board's support of all programs at the school, and the teachers are truly grateful. The teachers are also thankful for the support of the parents and community. This highlights the importance of the partnership between the school and the community to ensure student success. It is also a testament to the talented staff who recognize the importance of a diverse education for all students. Finally, the success of the activities and classes speaks volumes of our extraordinary students we are fortunate to have at LT. They are the living embodiment of our motto, Lead a Plan. And with that, I wish everyone a happy holiday and enjoy your break, and hopefully you have some nice time with family and friends. Thank you.
Thanks,
Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Marilyn, will you call our next speaker?
That's it.
Oh, okay. This concludes our first public participation opportunity. Next, we have our student representative to the Board of Education, Sophia Semitsky. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy finals week, everyone. For athletics, many winter sports have officially started. 16 athletes were named All-State athletes. Wrestling won 2 of their 3 matches at the varsity meet. Girls basketball program hosted a pink-out game where they beat Oak Park. Boys basketball won their tournament game at the LT Thanksgiving tournament and won against OPRF. Boys swim won against York at their last meet and won second place in the Bronco Relays. 130 seniors who earned West Suburban Conference all-academic status this fall. For activities for Menagerie, literary submissions are due January 18th and art submissions are due by February 27th. Their first meeting is on January 22nd and everyone is welcome to join. Menagerie also won All-American with 5 marks of distinction from the NSPA and Best in Show 6th place. Music improv performed at Bethlehem Woods and recorded pieces for WLTL. Theater Board performed a Christmas Carol radio play last week in the Reber Center. Their most recent musical, As You Like It, has been selected to perform at ISU on January 12th. Interact Club hosted a children's book drive with LaGrange Rotary. They donated over 400 books to Bernie's Book Bank, and 50 kids received 8 books each. Save Promise Club made over 400 hot chocolate bags to donate to children in Chicago who are victims of gun violence. Older Adult Connections is working with Student Council to put on the first senior citizen prom in 10 years and are planning for it to be in April. Greek Club had its final meeting where they practiced Greek dancing and singing along to Greek Christmas carols. Operation Snowball had an end of the semester gathering to reconnect after their fall retreat. Math team had their second competition of the year and got second place with a perfect paper. Investment Club had 2 guest speakers come in to teach the club about the future of investment banking and to give advice on how to succeed financially. Tabulae submitted deadline 2 pages for proofs and are working on their 3rd deadline for the year. National Honor Society hosted an induction ceremony for newly inducted members, where all members pledged to uphold the 4 pillars of NHS. JV Palms qualified for state with all 3 of their routines at their first competition, and they also hosted a fundraiser at the varsity game. And Zoology Club hosted a fundraiser to raise money for food and new habitats for their animals. And finally, Biz Concessions has had some of their biggest profits this year out of the post-pandemic years. Good luck on finals, everyone.
Thanks, Sophia.
Not slowing down around here.
Never a dull moment, just always so many amazing things. And we really appreciate your participation and you bringing all that good news to us. We know it's a super busy time for you and for all of our students, and particularly our seniors who have a lot of other things going on related to next year. So thank you so much for all the great news and great insights and keeping us grounded in all the important stuff that's happening here at LT.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also, with the board support, I let Sophia know that because it's finals week, after we get through the student recognition, when we take a pause, she might want to shoot out early too to go study. So
You're not.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Sophia. We appreciate you being here. Okay, next we have the superintendent report, and we'll turn it over to you, Dr. Waterman.
Thank you, President Albert. I want to do a quick logistics item first. The district has received 3 FOIA requests since the November meeting, and all of those are included as an itemized list within your personal board packet here this evening. And I wanted to get that out of the way first because we have some recognition and some awesome news to share tonight during my superintendent report. So we're very fortunate that the board takes the opportunity to celebrate our students, our staff, and our community each quarter. And tonight we're really excited to offer our Q2 celebration. As you can tell, we have a big crowd here of students, staff, and community members. And we're going to start our recognition tonight with our incubator program. We have the sponsor who started the incubator program, as well as our current sponsor here. We also have some community members who volunteered their time to support our students in the incubator program. But we're going to start tonight by watching a video that shares a little more about what the incubator program is. So let's start with that. Ed, go ahead and show it.
My name is Daniel Malloy. I'm a graduate of LT 2005. So the reason I became involved in the incubator program here at LT is actually Mr. Archibald. He was the one who seeked out coaches for the program, and he had approached me about offering value proposition to the students of how they're going to promote their business when they go out to sell themselves and their business.
My name is Michael Archibald, and I am starting my 2nd year here at LT. I am a business education teacher in the Global Studies Division. I heard about the incubator program here at LT when I joined LT 2 years ago, and from knowing that LT had the program here, I was looking forward to being able to be a part of it and take over and be able to take it to the next phase.
So incubator is very similar to Intro to Business. It's a very collaborative process where you get to work with other kids and kind of build up your business skills, and you work on something. You get to go through like the whole process. It's a whole year long, and you get to dive a lot deeper into every little like aspect of building a business.
One of the things that we talk about here at LT is preparing our students for whatever their next step is when they leave us from the moment they enter LT. And we have a myriad of course offerings where students get career-related exposure. There is no better example than our incubator program, where students are solving real-life business problems, working with professionals in the industry, and having an opportunity to learn those skills that are transferable to whatever their area of employment is after high school. It's an awesome opportunity for our students to interact with business professionals in our community.
The incubator program provides networking opportunities for students through the mentors, through the coaches that come into the class and work with our students on a daily and weekly basis. It allows the students to see the entrepreneurs in another light and allows the students to be connected with their community. What makes me passionate about teaching incubator is that I get to be creative. I'm allowed to see them work through their struggles, and as an educator for the last 15 years, it brings me such joy to just be around students who are just trying and hustling. And I love nothing more than helping students. I love nothing more than seeing them grow, and I get to see that every single day in class. Any entrepreneur who has a startup is going to be going through many different struggles and challenges, and this program teaches all of our students to deal with those challenges and overcome those challenges and ultimately find success.
I wanted to get involved with Incubator because I'm already naturally interested in business, and it's nice to see it as a route, step-by-step path of how to make a business. Working with Mr. Archibald is always energetic, fun, and you get to learn a lot. The classroom experience is always very collaborative, and you get to share a lot of ideas and work together with people. I would tell someone that wants to get involved with Incubator that it's a very fun kind of work.
So I've been very impressed with the students that I've been able to work with the last 2 days. They've been engaged and excited about their products, And going forward into their community, it'll be a great opportunity to network not only with myself, but other people involved in this program that will help them get a job or grow their business in the future.
So one of the things we talk about a lot is relevancy and learning, and there's probably not a better example of relevancy and learning than the incubator program. And I want to start, I'm going to slide right over here, I want to start by recognizing two sponsors of this program. The seed for this program was planted a few years ago by Krista Wilcox, and then she transitioned the program to Michael Archibald this year. So I'm going to invite both Michael and Krista to come up and first be recognized.
Ladies first. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hi, Michael. Congratulations.
Thanks,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
One of the backbones of this program is our community volunteers, and we have a couple of community volunteers that are here with us. Michael's going to introduce those.
Stand right here.
You're good.
Awesome.
You're good.
So thank you all for this awesome recognition, and thank Krista Wilcox for actually getting this off the ground. So if Brian Davis could stand up, Jen Zimanowski, Sean Kennedy, and Bob Wren. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Sean's.
Appreciate you.
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Bob Wayne. Sean, good to see you. Thank you so much.
No.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, so we don't have a cool video to show for the other programs, but I think they speak for themselves. You're going to notice a theme throughout the rest of tonight's recognition program, and that is all about publications. We're fortunate here at LT to have some amazing publication programs in a variety of areas. And we want to start tonight by recognizing our newspaper program, the Lion. We're going to start with our sponsor, Jason Scales. Come on up, Jason. I have the pleasure of talking to our Lion reporters a lot around a wide variety of topics, and they're always just really awesome to talk to. They're so well informed. They're well prepared. It's obviously due to the leadership of our sponsor, Mr. Scales. And I think we have some students here tonight that you're going to introduce.
Absolutely. This is Nina Vancevic. She's our editor-in-chief, leading the staff, and they not only the print edition, but our online website too, lionnewspaper.com. So, Arrow, one of our opinion page editors, opinion section editors. Arrow's in charge of that section. It's one of the most popular sections, most read section of our paper and website. And also we have Catherine Krausor with us as well. She's our art director. She's in charge of a lot of the page design and graphics, the page 13, if you know what that is as well. So that's Catherine, the art director.
If you come here on any day that there's distributing, there's music playing by the clock tower, and they're throwing out the newspapers left and right. So obviously a really important part of what we do here at LT. So congratulations again to sponsor Scales and our students here from the Lion newspaper.
First, we could do a picture with the Lion crew. With
come on up.
there.
Come on up here.
Sorry, I don't want to block them.
You're a photographer. There we go.
All right. Congratulations.
So the next group that we want to recognize is our LTTV. If you're familiar with the blue truck that you see around town and around campus, they are constantly recording our events, whether it's concerts or games, graduation, all the important events that happen here at LT. And our sponsor, Mr. Allen, works diligently to lead the LTTV program. He's going to talk a little bit about how this program has really had to be rebuilt coming out of the pandemic. And so I'll turn it over to Mr. Allen for more.
Waterman's not putting me on the spot. I actually wanted to talk about this because I think everybody was affected during COVID, but our program is really heavily dependent on hands-on equipment use and being together and working as a crew, and that was very limited. So the group of students that I have here, I could have easily brought 10 more beyond just these kids, because they all in the last 2 years have helped to really truly rebuild this program. And just as an FYI, because I do listen, when you mentioned the Little Lyons preschool, I am not just an alum of LT. This is on God. I found a certificate that my mom, for some reason, saved. Billy Allen, Little Lyons preschool of 1976. Yeah, it's somewhere on Facebook. That's how OG I am. But honestly, as an alum of LT, I was one of those kids who took the TV classes because they were fun. I never thought that I was going to have a career in media until college, when I realized that I wanted to have a career in media, and then I did. And I was fortunate enough to work in the Chicago film industry and the television side of things for a number of years before going back to school to get my degree. And I think the only reason why I want to share that is because a lot of times, students don't have a lot of flexibility in their schedule, but when a kid takes an elective and they connect, it could be a career path. And that's my whole approach since I've been working here, is to provide kids with a fun time to learn about this stuff. And even if they don't go, into media as a career path, the fact is that knowing how to create a convincing and effective video is a valuable tool no matter what you grow up to be. So I want to recognize some of the students that are leaders that have worked diligently to help rebuild LTTV. Annie Price, Gabrielle Boyat, Elliot Marcoux, Michael Badrov, Maddox McDonald. Come on up. So these are students, yeah, JT's gonna wanna take a picture. So you guys, these are students who have creatively collaborated. They have learned incredible technical skills. They have won multiple awards through multiple video festivals and competitions, including the Midwest Media Video Festival, the Silent Film Festival, and last year, the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. So we're very fortunate to have the awesome equipment and facilities that you guys provide for us, and the students take advantage of that. And that is literally why I do what I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
I mean, one of the themes, and Mr. Allen talked about this, in any of these programs, oftentimes our students who are leaders here in the program become leaders at the college level in the same programs because of how good our programs are. So that's a theme you'll hear, whether it's newspaper or yearbook or radio or TV, doesn't matter. So I want to now move on to recognize our literary and art magazine, which is, we call the Menagerie, and our sponsor for Menagerie is Joseph Matthews. He's going to talk a little bit about that. Use that first.
All right. So Menagerie is unusual in that is the only publication or media that's represented here that's not a class. So the students are choosing to come after school to devote time to creating this. Our goal is to showcase all of the artists and writers of the school, and we typically receive about 150 submissions that are written and 300 art submissions that we go through and publicize. Menagerie's been around for 48 years. It's one of the best literary magazines in the country, so the students choosing to come out outside of the school day to devote to this and carry on the legacy is pretty awesome. So we have, I think, 2 editors-in-chief with us today. First one, Annie Price, who was layout editor last year and is this year's editor-in-chief here. We We also have Ashlyn Kwong, who has been a prose editor for the last 2 years. So as a sophomore. McKinley's not here. She's,
I'll get that
she's
to her.
performing in the jazz festival. Yeah.
Congratulations.
So Mr. Matthews is going to stay up here because he's also the sponsor of our yearbook, the Tabulae, or as the students call themselves, the Tabbies. This is a group that works tirelessly, long deadline nights, really throughout the year to capture the story of the school year for LT, and I'll let Mr. Matthews talk more about that.
Yeah, so it's actually a work night tonight. So in room 115, we have a bunch of students working on pages now. It sounds a little cheesy, but American author Pat Conroy once said that a yearbook is the love letter that a school writes to itself. And so our goal as a staff is to try to capture the 4,000 students and the 100 clubs and 30 sports teams and performances and activities and events and all the things that happen in the ways that students try to connect to the school. I think it's a big responsibility because it's been around since 1908. We do try to capture what makes this year unique to the students. And hopefully a book that from 2023 looks different than a book from 1915. It should capture what the year is. So on top of all the coursework that the students are doing and all the shoots that they're going to, it is like a small business, it has a $90,000 budget, and we're honored that 70% of students choose to buy a yearbook. So with me today are, well, I'll say their awards first before we all clap. So we have the editor-in-chief with us, Josie Mena, who was named by the National Scholastic Press Association as a top 10 photojournalist of the year last year. And we also have the other editor-in-chief, Sydney Matisick, who was also top 10 news photo of the year last year. And you saw a lot of their pictures and video. So. Yeah. Okay. Oh, we're holding them up. Okay, sure. Absolutely.
Congratulations.
Mr. Matthews didn't mention that the yearbook usually weighs about 100 pounds. Thousands of pages. Congratulations again. The final publication program that we want to recognize tonight is our radio station, WLTL. And if you obviously live in the area, hopefully you listen to WLTL a lot. So I want to recognize our sponsor, Chris Thomas, also an LT alum, and now has led the program for many, many years. So come on up, Chris.
I did not go to Little Lyons preschool. Sorry. So my name is Chris Thomas. I get to lead the students at WLTL every day. Much like TV, we're unique in that we're a class and a club. So students can take our courses, but students can also just do it as an extracurricular, which is wonderful because, as we know, there's so many wonderful electives here at LT, and we'd love for them all to take ours. But we know there's not always enough time to do that. So WLTL, if you're on your way out of here later tonight, 88.1 FM, you can tune it into your car. We've been broadcasting for 56 years. This January, birthday coming up. And students run the show. I'm very proud to say when anybody asks about our success, I'm very, very proud to say that I'm a faculty advisor. A lot of my peers in this industry call themselves, and I have this title too, general manager, but I don't manage the station. They truly manage the station. I'm there to oversee and make sure they're on the right track. And our alumni have gone on to do wonderful things in and out of radio. Much like Bill said with TV, there's a lot of the skills that we teach that can be translated to other careers. And one of the things we're really hoping to do with the students is learn to tell stories. The medium from when I started here 19 years ago, podcasting was a hobby. Podcasting is now literally $1 billion a year industry. We don't know, a lot of times with media teachers, we don't know what they're going to go into for 8 years from now, what the industry is going to look like and what the technology is going to look like. But the storytelling skills and the management skills and the people skills and the layout skills and all the other media skills we teach,
will be able to be translated into whatever the medium holds 10, 15, 20 years from now. We have a couple students that we'll recognize here tonight. We have a staff of just a little over 100 students that come in and do shows, but we have a student management team who help run the radio station, and we have 2 of them here tonight, and they're both named Lily. Lily Shambo, Lily Kukula Shambo first is our operations manager. She is the student that is in charge of everybody downstairs. I think Lily is realizing just what that means this year. So in a good way, in a good way. And then Lily Dodge is with us. Lily Dodge is one of our music directors. And in addition to evaluating music and dealing with music reps and record companies and promotions companies, which people get paid to do and you get to do for class credit. Lily also was named Best Talk Show in the Nation with Matthew Walsh, who the board will know sat in that chair last year. Matt and Lily did a talk show called The Buzz, and their second episode won Best Talk Show in the Nation this last fall at our national awards.
Congratulations.
There's a long list of LT alums working in radio and TV and in a wide variety of journalism areas, and it's obviously due to the outstanding publication programs that we have here at LT. So I want to have another round of applause for all of our So I'm also excited tonight to recognize our latest Vita Plena Award recipient. So for those that don't know, the Vita Plena Award has been presented by the superintendent to a deserving individual since about the mid-90s. The award is generally presented to an individual who embodies the themes of inspiration, of creativity, kindness, selflessness, and overall, just someone who goes above and beyond in service to our students, to our staff, and to our school community. As we search to honor a staff member deserving of the award for second quarter, Pauline Beach was a natural choice. She's here in our front row. Welcome, Pauline. So Pauline started with LT in the 2019-2020 school year and has worked as a paraeducator in the special education department during her career. She came to us after a career as an account rep, supervisor, and an account executive for both Procter & Gamble and L'Oreal. You may not have known that. She received both her bachelor's and master's degree in business administration from Elmhurst College. Pauline serves the students in our LIFE program, and we're proud to work with her. We're proud to honor her tonight because she impacts our school community in so many amazing ways. She really does embody what the Vita Plena Award is about. And if you know her, or if you're at South Campus a lot, you see the enthusiasm, the compassion, and the dedication that she brings. She's usually running around that campus, not walking around, running around the campus, supporting students and supporting staff. And it's my honor to present Pauline with the Vita Plena Award.
This is a career path I wanted to take when I was 14, and my parents said, no, you're not going to. Mom and Dad were both teachers, and 3 aunts and an uncle.
There you go.
So here I am living out what I wanted to do, and loving it, and great support from staff, and enjoying the students. So thank you very much.
We're happy to work with you.
Congratulations, Pauline. Well deserved.
So obviously one of the best parts of this job, and on behalf of our board, is being able to recognize student, staff, and community members that do so much on a day-to-day basis. And so this is such a fun thing to honor.
Yeah, I'm sure I speak for all of my fellow board members that this is one of the most gratifying things we get to do on a quarterly basis. We look forward to it. It reminds us of all the amazing things that LT has to offer, and we're very interested and passionate about making sure that we're supporting the whole student, the whole child, And the combination of all the amazing things we heard today, from all the awards, along with everything that Sophia shares with us, is just an amazing reminder of all that LT is for our students. And it's all because of everyone in here and every person that flows into the school system that helps to make it what it is. So from somebody, Andrew, you recognized our buildings ground crews, our paras, our other staff members, our teachers, our wonderful administrators, our amazing parent community, and certainly our amazing students. You all inspire us, so thank you.
I would just make one plug that none of the coordination of this would have happened without Marilyn, so thank you, Marilyn. From my perspective, just a really quick happy holidays to the LT community. We're going to make it through finals, I promise. We only got 4 days left. But have a wonderful break, as so many people said tonight. Much well-deserved break, relaxing, and hopefully time spent with family and loved ones. So happy holidays.
And if we could do one more picture, we didn't get the incubator picture, so we'd love for the amazing people who participated in that program to come up and double the recognition for these mentors. Thank you.
Just went out. Right.
And that concludes my superintendent report for tonight, and this might be a good time to take a pause.
Yes, so any board members, before we take a pause? Anybody?
Oh my gosh. I mean, amazing. Incredible.
Yeah, I'm just so grateful, everything that you said, but also, you know, to the point that Mr. Allen and Mr. Thomas made, especially to be able to offer all of the extracurriculars and the fine arts and our media program and all of the extras that we get as being part of this great community is just an incredible service to our students. And I'm grateful every day that my kids get to be a part of it and that this is the community that we want to be. So thank you.
All right, well, thank you all for attending. You're certainly welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting. We would love it, but we certainly understand it's a busy time of year, and wishing you all happy holidays.
Bye, Sophia. Thank you.
Bye, Sophia.
Thank you.
Yeah, good move. Action item, we will begin with the approval of the 2023 tax year tax levy. Say that 3 times. Director Brian Stasak.
Thank you, President O'Bear.
Thank you.
And so this is the second time that we'll be presenting this. I'm not going to go through all of the math again because we talked about that extensively at the November board meeting. And so I'm just going to call your attention to page 12 of your packet, which essentially is the document that we showed the last time that shows some of the total dollar amounts and how we arrived at those. So what we're projecting based on some, again, projections, is that the 2023 tax rate, and I'm on, again, that page 12, it's line 23, the total for the capped funds, a tax rate of 2.0452. Our 2022 extension was $77,361,000. The CPI, Consumer Price Index, was actually well above 5% last year, but we are capped at 5%. So that additional 5% brings us $3,868,000 for a total of $81,229,000 as a new levy on the capped funds. Then we have to add in the non-capped funds, which would be the new property. And so again, we're estimating $50 million new property. Probably not going to be the number, but we want to capture all of that in the first year. And so that being said, with that projected tax rate and $50 million of new property, we'd have a little over $1 million of additional money from properties that don't exist on the tax rolls at this point, but will for 2023. So that brings the total levy to $82,251,776. That is a $4,890,000 increase over the prior year, which is 6.32%, which is what we had told, advertised in the newspaper. And then if you go down to the bottom there, we also then have to add in our bond and interest fund. That is not one of the operating funds, but we add that back in. That brings us a new proposed total levy of $85,091,000, which is $4.9 million over the prior year, or a 6.13% increase. I just want to bring to your attention that I made one change to the numbers within the funds. Aggregate dollar amounts are the same, but the levy within the transportation fund, I decreased by $400,000, and I put that $400,000 back into the education fund. The reason I did that is because our expenses last year in the transportation fund were $2.8 million. And beside the levy, we also have about $1 million worth of reimbursement that we receive from the state every year that goes back into that fund as well. So there's really no point in putting, I think originally I had $2.6 million in, almost $2.7 million in the transportation fund, and then we receive that money from the state, so there's really no reason to run a $1 million surplus in that particular fund. So we're reducing some of the dollars in there. And again, this won't fund this year's budget. This will go to fund next year's budget, the 25 budget. So I think we'll be a lot closer in terms of where we'll fall with those numbers there. So that is the only change that I've made. Again, the net is zero there. Same total dollar amount, just within the funds we moved it. There's only a couple of quick new documents here. If you go to your page 13, the certificate of tax levy, that is the document that ISB requires school districts to use when we're submitting our tax levy. We also then have a resolution that has all of the numbers in there as well. The certification of the resolution on page 17. Again, there's the history we talked about. And then on page 20, you have the certificate that we complied with the truth and taxation hearing, which again, we were required to do this year because the increase was over 5%. Again, the board has always had a history of doing that truth and taxation hearing, even if the levy wasn't over 5%. But this year, matter of fact, last year and this year, we've been required to do it. And you still have that document there on page 21, which we were able to put up on the website, that shows what this sort of an increase based on what we see here would look like to residential homeowners based on 4 different properties at various price points in the market. So that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on the 2023 tax levy at this time.
Nope, you're very thorough.
Okay.
Talked to you a few times about it. It's great.
We've seen it a couple of times now, and to Carrie's point, you are very thorough, and we really appreciate that. So if we don't have any questions by the board, I would ask for a motion to approve the 2023 tax year tax levy as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Marilyn, would you please call the roll?
Member Gretsch?
Yes.
Member Nava?
Yes.
Member Thomas?
Yes.
Member Alvarez?
Yes.
Member Vita Daniels?
Yes.
Member Dillon?
Yes.
Member O'Bear?
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, next we have new business, and we will move on to our first new business action item, which will be the consideration of the approval of the fiscal year 23 audited financial statements. And I will turn that right back over to you, Brian.
Thank you, President Albert. I'll also be brief on this one as well, as we had an extensive conversation with the auditors, Sheridan Jurgensen, a partner with Excezion, used to be Eder Casella, at our last meeting. And so all you have here, nothing has changed. You do have the final copy of the FY23 financial statements. And so nothing there has changed, as we heard from Sheridan at that last meeting. An excellent audit report, as we typically see here in the district. And again, just want to say thanks to, in particular, Kathy Moran, who's just vital to everything that we do here in terms of the accounting piece of this and making sure that all of this falls in line with the rules and regulations that we need to follow. And of course, all the other offices here, because at the district office level, they will ask for items from all of the district office personnel at various times. And so thank you to all of them as well. So a great report here, beginning on, if you're looking for sort of the Cliff Note version of it, how did we operate financially in the year? Beginning on your page 124, you would have the comparison there of the budget to actual for revenue. On page 125, you would have the comparison of the budget to actual for the expenditures. And then on page 126, you would have essentially all of those operating funds put together, and that gives you a comprehensive look at how everything played out in terms of a surplus, which we did have this year. And again, we talked about that being really related to those corporate personal property replacement taxes, which are coming back down from what we saw, some of those very historic highs over the last couple of years, but still much higher than what we would have expected to see historically for this coming year. So we'll just keep an eye on those as we talk about going forward in the 5-year forecast. So essentially, if you look there on that page 126, in column I, you would see that our surplus of all funds at that particular, at the close of June 30th, would be $60.1 million. However, you do have to keep in mind that we had pledged fund balance from the prior year to cover our projects, and that is in the capital projects fund. And so keep in mind that we still have budgeted $2.3 million of that money to be spent this year for those projects. So even though it was allocated last year, that money won't actually physically be spent until FY24. So we do have to account for that because we're paying for it for fund balance. So really, if you were to take that $60.1 million and then subtract the $2.3 million from it, you're probably in the ballpark of about $57 million, a little bit higher than that in terms of where we are total dollars. And so that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions on any part of this that the board may have.
Any questions by the board? All good? Okay, again, we saw this before. We had the pleasure of listening to the amazing audit report from last time that we really value year to year, hearing that great news, and thank you and your team and all the teams that feed into that. If we don't have any questions, I will ask for a motion to approve the fiscal year 23 audited financial statements as presented.
Aye.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Marilyn, will you please call the roll?
Member Nava?
Yes.
Member Thomas?
Yes.
Member Alvarez?
Yes.
Member Vita Daniels?
Yes.
Member Dillon?
Yes.
Member Gretsch?
Yes.
Member O'Bear?
Yes. Great. Okay, we're going to go right back to Director Brian Stachak for consideration of approval of the fiscal year 24 property tax relief grant application.
Thank you, President Albert. So this is something that was new in 2017. And when the state changed their funding formula, what they did is they had said that they would allocate roughly $50 million every year for property tax relief grants. And so what that means is a school district could reduce their levy, which we just approved. The state would supplement with some money from their funds. And then it's complicated, and I will tell you this, we're not I'm happy to go into it more at another time. However, when you look at where we are, we're 534th on the list for a grant. I still think it's important to apply, because if we don't apply, we can't get it. Even if we do apply, the chances of getting it, I think, are pretty slim. It's sort of like the lottery ticket, right? You have one and it really doesn't increase your chances of winning all that much. But nonetheless, I still think it's important to apply. Again, the state has allocated $49.3 million for this coming year. And as I said, we're 534th in line for a grant based on our operating tax rate, with $736 million ahead of us in possible grants. So that kind of gives you the scope of why we probably won't receive this grant. But again, I'm still recommending that we would apply for it. And so just to give you just a quick look at this, what basically happens is you end up reducing your levy. And what the state says for us is that we'd have to essentially give back $2.8 million out of our tax levy in 23 and 24. So you do it for 2 years. And then what happens is they would give us $1.2 million of grant money. So there's a net loss of $1.6 million each year to the district in total revenue. However, what happens after those 2 years is where it becomes interesting, because then you can go back and increase your levy to the amount that it was prior, plus the state continues to fund us that additional $1.2 million. So there are a lot of ways to go with that, 3 years up the road, where you could say, look, what we're going to do is we're going to recapture that, the $3.2 million that we gave up over 2 years and then bring the levy back down, or you can recapture that, leave the levy where it is, and continue to collect the $1.2 million from the state. So there are options there that we would talk about. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on it tonight, because I don't think that it's going to be a conversation that we'll have. However, it's here and it's in this information, and if we were notified by the state that we were to get it, then we would have that conversation. The first thing we have to do is we have to send an abatement of property taxes to Cook County for 2023. That would start the process. So that would actually be done here probably in the early spring, probably late February, beginning of March. We would do that, and that would start that process. But again, we would have more information on that coming forward. And we still have time to talk about, how much do we want to abate? Do we want to abate all of it? Do we want to not? And then what does that look like 3 years up the road, and how we handle that from here? So, but again, time to discuss that, and it'd be great if we were talking about it, and I don't know that we will be. So, but anyway, the recommendation is for the board to approve submission of the application, and then we go from there.
It would be nice to, you present this every year, and I'm glad you apply for us every year, and, holding out for hope.
Yeah, we did move up. We were in the 600s before.
Ask you, what was our number?
We were in the 680 range at one point, I think.
Yeah, that
from prior
sounds
years,
right.
650 range, something like that. So we've moved up, but
a dent in
it is a bit of a dent. That's correct.
3-4 years time.
Yeah.
5
Yeah.
years, 6 years.
And remember too, I think I failed to say this. When you reduce your levy, that's a savings that's passed directly on to all of the community, the taxpayers, right? And so that's the point of this particular grant, is to do that.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
We're looking for those kinds of opportunities.
Yep.
Thanks.
I don't want to get into it too much into the woods, but just a kind of a question within a question. If we, for some crazy reason, end up getting it, do we have to accept? And if we do, and the grant funds run out, we live in the state of Illinois, right? Then do we, on years 3, 4, and 5, are we out of luck?
Great question. So the answer to the first question is, I believe we have the ability to decide after that. Everything that I've read said, look, the $2.8 million that is the top end of what we would have to abate. I think we can take something less than that, or we don't have to do it at all. We can say, nope, we're not going to do it, and so therefore it doesn't happen. Going into the second question, I think the answer to your question is yes. If the state says, look, we've run this program as long as we could, the additional $1.2 million of grant money that we were giving you, we no longer can do going forward, I think it's over at that point. Yeah.
But we can still make that decision if, for some crazy reason, we were able to be on the list.
Yeah, and the reality of that is, you could go 5 years after your abatement period is over, right? So the first 2 years of the abatements, and maybe, like I said, they keep the grant going for 5 years after that, so you keep the $1.2 million, and then it goes away. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's, as you said, it's the state of Illinois.
Thank
Yep,
you.
sure.
Okay. All right. Can I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 24 property tax relief grant application as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Marilyn, will you please call the roll?
Member Thomas?
Yes.
Member Alvarez?
Yes.
Member Vita Daniels?
Yes.
Member Dillon?
Yes.
Member Gretsch?
Yes.
Member Nava?
Yes.
Member Robert?
Yes. Thank you. Okay. We'll now move on to the consideration of approval of the Voris Mechanical Change Order, and right back at you, Brian.
Thank you, President O'Bara. This will be my final one, I promise. So this is the Boris Mechanical is the company that we worked with this past summer, who added the air conditioning to the J Wing at South Campus, and also changed out the air handling units here at North Campus, in the library, and then in the LTTV studio as well. And so our original contract amount with them was $2,262,500, and that included a $100,000 allowance for any unforeseen conditions. And as you'll see from the document, the change order, we did use $54,125 of those dollars for some unforeseen conditions. However, the good news is still that we still have $45,824 left over. Was it 24? No, 74, sorry. $74 left over from that 100,000. So this is another deductive change order. Again, as I said, $2,262,500, the original contract amount. The new contract amount final will be $2,216,625.95, so reduced down by that $45,000. And again, this is not money that we have paid them, it's just simply money that we won't pay them. So the contract amount is reduced, which is good to see. So again, that is, a tribute to our architects too, because they're the ones who, when we look at this, we say, okay, look, what type of project is it? What type of allowance do we think we need to have? Because there are certainly things, as you see with this one, you get into it and then you find something like these fire dampers that are in there that need to be replaced. And so those things happen, and you don't always see all of that pre-construction. So in this particular case, I think they did a good job with that. And so again, we need the board to approve this deductive change order.
We like deductive change orders.
I do too, yes.
Kind of on a roll with these lately.
Mhm. Yes.
Yes, you brought a few of them to us. Any questions from the board?
No.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the Voris Mechanical Change Order as presented? So moved.
Aye.
Okay. Marilyn, will you please call the roll?
Member Alvarez?
Yes.
Member Vita Daniels?
Yes.
Member Dillon?
Yes.
Member Gretsch?
Yes.
Member Nava?
Yes.
Member Thomas?
Yes.
Member Robert?
Yes. Thank you, Brian. Thank you for all of that. Okay, our final new business action item is the approval of the Board of Education reimbursement expenses for the 2023 Joint Annual Conference, or otherwise known as III. It was great that we had so many board members be able to attend this conference. 5 of us were able to attend, and I don't know if anyone would like to make some comments about the experience of attending the conference?
I mean, I can just say I've gone now for probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and having a new perspective going as a board member has been phenomenal. Being educated on superintendent evaluations, OMA, board rules, regulations, I think it just allows for us as a team to be more informed, educated, and be able to work better together. So I very much valued it going this year, certainly as a board member.
Yeah, I mean, for me as a new member, it was very invaluable experience for me. I got to meet other board members from the different districts and got to sit in workshops and work collaboratively on, learning their processes versus ours. And, it was very good networking and learning also on the equity lenses and workshops that Michael and I attended. I think it was just a very worthwhile experience all around.
Just to add to what Elvia said,
Ditto.
it was good professional development
And then also just looking at and hearing stories of best practices from other districts that, across different areas. I sat in on a session with school safety websites that are included in districts, and they talked about their approach to really inform the community across a whole holistic spectrum of school safety elements, and where where family members can go to learn more in depth about it. So that was informative, and then attending the equity shop workshop as well was a good experience.
But just to add, I thought that the opportunity to attend that conference and kind of immerse ourselves, or from my perspective, in some of the board governance, but I think one of the most valuable things for me was attending some of the panel conferences that other school boards and their administration presented. And then, of course, like networking, just the opportunity to meet and hear from other school board members, I think was just fantastic. And I'd like to I know everyone wanted to come, and a couple of you had conflicts, which, completely understandable. But thank you all. It's a conference that runs over the weekend, so it required many of you to take the day off on Friday, to give up your weekend on Saturday and Sunday. And it seems like the feedback was very strong, so hopefully we keep this momentum going and have strong participation at next year too. It's a great learning opportunity.
I think I would just like to add that as one of the members who was unable to attend, that I do also appreciate all of those, all of the members who were able to go and came back and had just really informational tidbits to share with the group. And also just because I really think it's very important for our district to have a voice at these types of conferences. And I know historically we hadn't really been that engaged and active, and so I'm very excited to see that there is so much emphasis put on representation there, and because the issues that are obviously discussed there greatly impact our students across the entire state, but certainly here at home. So I really thank you guys for attending, and I hope that I'll be able to go next year. If we can continue to do that, though, I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, and I want to correct something. Michael and Elvia, you both went Thursday and Friday, so you even did an extra day beyond that. So thank you very much.
Double duty.
Yeah, double duty for sure. Thank you very much for giving that much of your time to attend that. Okay, well, with that, I'd like to have a motion, please, to approve the Board of Education reimbursement expenses for the 2023 Joint Annual Conference AAA.
Aye. Oh, second.
Second, great. Marilyn, will you please call the roll?
Member Vita Daniels?
Yes.
Member Dillon?
Yes.
Member Grudge?
Yes.
Member Nava?
Yes.
Member Thomas?
Yes.
Member Alvarez?
Yes.
Member Albert?
Yes. Great. Thank you, everyone. And lastly, we have one new business informational topic this evening. It's a strategic plan, Goal 4 update, and we will turn it over to Dr. Brian Waterman.
Thank you, President Albert. So tonight is our third of 5 strategic plan goal updates throughout the school year. Tonight we're going to focus on Goal 4, which is family and community partnerships. And I want to start by welcoming our Global Studies Division Chair, Dan Bies, to the table tonight. Him and Dr. Tyrell and Scott Eggerding, myself, are going to share some Goal 4 updates. The Community Relations Department uses this goal as kind of a reference point for the work that they do, and Mary Lynn was scheduled to present with us tonight, but she is ill tonight, so she could not be here. So what I'm going to do is really Goal 4 has 3 strategies associated with the goal. The first strategy is building confidence and engagement with families and the communities through improved communication, collaboration, and transparency. Our second strategy is promoting high school readiness by fostering communication and collaboration with our associate school districts. And then also the third strategy within this goal is partnering with the community to offer learning opportunities to expose students to potential career pathways and community services. So between June of 2023 and September of 2023, which is really last summer to early fall. Our leadership team and our action planning teams that are associated with Goal 4 identified a variety of tasks that would need to be completed during this school year to really make progress towards this goal. So these tasks are highlighted on both slides 3 and 4 on the slide deck, or on page 146 and 147 of your board packet. They're broken down by strategy, and we're excited to share a couple of the highlights of those here tonight. So I'm going to kind of kick us off by just talking about communication in general to start, which is that first strategy. And again, that's, how do we build confidence and engagement with our families and the community through improved collaboration and transparency. We've typically offered a variety of email, electronic, social media-based, and web-based communication and information throughout the years. That's certainly no different this year. We've had over 154,000 users and almost 1 million page views on our website since the beginning of the year. We have about 3,000 Facebook followers, and then about 1,500 followers each on our District X and Instagram accounts. So far this year, our weekly principal messages from Dr. Tyrell have averaged about almost 5,000 opens per week. Our quarterly superintendent messages are averaging about 6,100 opens per message. And then our monthly board briefs that come out from you guys average about 4,200 opens per message. So that all of that information and some of the data associated with that is highlighted on page 150 of your packet. And then I also want to point out that on Friday, I shared with the board that electronic document that had some live links on it. So I really invite you to explore that more, because it's all of this information in one area, but then you can kind of drill down as well to explore further. I think when it comes, though, to connecting with our community, one of our focus areas this year has really been trying to engage with our community who don't have students here. Certainly if there's parent, guardian, community member who has a student here, they're going to get our weekly messages, our monthly messages, our quarterly messages. But if you don't have a direct connection to LT, how do we make sure that our community is getting that information? And so that's been a focus. We have almost 33,000 households within our school community. And this year we set up a dedicated part of the website that is focused just on community members, where we want to get them to sign up for our e-news. We targeted them at the beginning of the year with a hard copy postcard that had QR codes to the website. And then our goal this year is to do that quarterly, where we do a hard copy mailing each quarter to certainly share a lot of the good information to all of our current parents and guardians, but really the intent of that is to connect with people who may not have a direct connection to LT. So we've done 2 of those so far. We did the postcard, and then we did we resurrected the by the numbers idea from before the pandemic, and that went out right before Thanksgiving. The other thing is, we want to increase the number of members on our LT Community Advisory Council. I mean, that's a primary way that we're able to not only share information, but get feedback from our community members. And we want that to be an all-encompassing group of not only current students, staff, and parents, but also future parents and previous parents, right? I mean, we have a lot of community members whose children graduated years ago. We want to engage with them as well. So we have 148 members currently on LTCC. And I always use these opportunities as a shameless plug to get more people to sign up, because we want that to be a big group. We typically get about 60-ish that show up at any given meeting, and we're able to present information and obviously get feedback from them as well. And then again, I want to point out to the board, a lot of these highlights are on page 148 to 150 of your packet, or on the slide deck that I'm showing here as well. So there's a lot of information both on the slide deck and in the document that I shared with you guys on Friday. So that's kind of 1/3 of what we want to share tonight. So I think it'd be a good chance to pause there first and see if there's any questions, concerns, or thoughts about just communication with our community in general.
The only thing that I just thought was very interesting is under your communication strategic tab timeline here, you talked about the top cities. that people are visiting our website, and it's the LaGrange, Chicago, and Western Springs. I just thought the Chicago piece was very interesting. And I don't want to speculate, but I'm wondering if we become a magnet, so to speak, to people that are living in the city because they're looking to move out to the suburbs for a really good school. And so some of this communications that we're doing is really helping drive up our area. It's highlighting the amazing school that we have here. So I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah,
I also think that's probably a lot of parents at their offices in the city accessing, so that's where a lot of that.
That's a good point.
That's
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I hear
That's-
you.
yeah,
But
that's- We have a few parents that work downtown, Jill, is that what you're saying?
I mean, we might have one or two, I don't know.
It's like,
But it's
I never do
probably
that.
mostly
Mostly that other
parents that
thing.
want to move out here because it's all, I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's good.
But that's a good point, that this is, these are vehicles for people who are looking at our area and trying to vet out what type of school district it is. It's, you know, certainly the realtors and people in our community have something to say, but this is an expression of who we are as a district and all the great things we're doing here. So I think you're right, Tim.
It is, I mean, but it is our front door, so I love it. And I mean, obviously that was a huge lift to get it to where it is right now. And I appreciate reading through here and knowing that based on input, we're being iterative with it and going to continue to have those enhancements because, I mean, that's the first stop.
And to Jill's point, we're sort of forced into this a little bit. We went through the whole redesign last year with Blackboard, and they were bought out by Finalsite, and so that's kind of forcing us to do some upgrades, and that's going to be coming like in February, March. We're thinking but it's also a great opportunity. We launched it, we got some feedback, and because we're forced into going through this process anyway of transitioning to Finalsite, we can also make some improvements to it. So I don't anticipate there being significant changes to it, but it will give us a chance to do some minor upgrades.
I just wanted to tell you that I specifically received some feedback from By the Numbers from some parents in the community who have kids at the K through 6 level,
Okay.
and they had never seen it before from LT before, so they were very happy to receive that. And I don't remember, was there a QR code on that people could?
So yeah, it's on the bottom right.
Oh yeah, on the bottom right, which is great too. So hopefully, do we have a way of tracking the hits from those pieces?
Yeah, we do. Yep.
Too. That would be interesting to see how many people
find
utilize those to sign up. But anyway, I was happy to see that.
Yeah. Any other communication related questions or thoughts?
I wanted to, I mean, just maybe if you could expand a little bit. One of the questions that I always have when we are talking about comms is internal comms here, because we don't, you know, I don't have a line of sight, or if we're asked about it, I don't have a sense in it. There's a monthly newsletter, it looks like, but is it really managed by department? I mean, what's the cadence?
So two primary ones. Dr. Tariel sends a weekly message out to our staff.
Okay.
And then on a monthly basis, our central leadership team sends a message out to staff. And that's myself, our 5 directors, and then assessment, research, and technology. Yeah, so weekly from Jen, and then monthly from us. I should share those with you. Those are easy to throw into a weekly update.
Yeah. Other? Okay. Yeah, very good, very good.
Okay, let's jump into then strategy 2, which is focused on collaboration with our, we have 7 associate school districts, 6 traditional associate school districts, and then also LADSI, our special education cooperative. And Dr. Tyrell is going to share a few highlights from this strategy.
Great, thanks, Dr. Waterman.
Really excited to share with you tonight. This is the area that I'm really passionate about, and our team's done a lot of work on over the course of the last few years. So strategy 2 is promote high school readiness by fostering communication and collaboration with our associate districts. Within this part of tonight's presentation, I'm going to share updates on 3 areas. The first being principal articulation, in which regular meetings have enhanced our partnership in support of students and families transitioning into LT. The transition timeline, which has again been adjusted to meet the needs of students and families. And then a bit about our newly created 9th grade preparedness document, which was developed in order to include the key academic skills and learner behaviors that align to 9th grade preparedness or high school readiness. Members of our LT administrative team meet with our associate school principals on a regular basis. The topic of the meeting and the time frame for the meeting helps determine which members of the building and division leadership team attend the specific articulation meetings with the principals. Throughout the course of the year, the principals of our associate schools have an opportunity to meet with myself, our associate principals, division chairs, our director of curriculum, and also the incoming class assistant principal. And this year we're going to add our activities director, Mr. Geddes, in on that as well. Members of our team meet with the full group of associate school principals 3 to 4 times a year, and additionally we meet during the summer on an individual basis in support of students transitioning into LT the following fall. Meetings are scheduled strategically based on the transition timeline, which I'll go through in just a bit throughout the course of the year. And from a calendar perspective, we tend to meet in November when the transition process and formal events begin, January ahead of the second semester events and course registration, and April during the spring online registration process and ahead of all the summer communications that are sent home. There's an emphasis on communication in support of students and families. We share updates on events, communications that will be sent home, information about the placement process, and specific programming updates. Communications that I send home, that we send home, are always sent to our associate school principals in advance, because whereas we share with students and families that they can reach out to us with any questions that they have, we realize that they have established relationships with principals and APs at the associate schools, and so oftentimes they're reaching out to them with questions that they might have about our communications, the events that are part of our series. Meetings are also an opportunity to share more about LT programming, and last year we started giving formal presentations as part of the meeting. So in the spring of 2022, Drew Eder shared an update on student services and support at LT, and that was based on a request from our associate school principals. And at our last articulation meeting in November, the principals shared a couple of topics that they're interested in learning more about. One of those is CTE and career-related preparation. The other is the vast co-curriculars that we have here. So Dr. Buys, Drew Eder, and potentially Cody Daly will be presenting CTE and career-related preparation at our next meeting in January. They're also really excited and look forward to further discussing our 9th grade preparedness document and also talking about learning behaviors, which will be in addition to the document as we move into next year. The meetings are an opportunity for us to gain feedback from the principals on what they're hearing from families, what they're seeing with students, get their insight that directly comes from students and families, and honestly have informed our transition timeline and the evolution of our event. So it's been a great opportunity for our team to connect with all of our principals on a really regular basis. All right, the transition event series has been redesigned to better meet the needs of students and families over the course of the last couple of years, and it's been an evolution. Priorities within designing the timeline and events have been scheduling the events strategically throughout the course of the year. During the 21-22 school year, my first in the role, we heard from many families and principals that families wanted an opportunity to learn more about LT, tour the school earlier, get into the school in the fall. So this led us to developing the kickoff event, which is the first on-campus opportunity for students and families to learn about all we have to offer here at LT. We also recognize that the transition process can be really overwhelming, so it's important to us that we develop events that are focused and intentional. So the November event is designed to generate excitement about the LT experience, while the spring events, and I'll talk through those in just a minute, are really all about registration, course selection, helping our students and families feel comfortable prior to making decisions about which courses they're going to select for their freshman year. So one of the documents that you have at your seats is what we affectionately call our fridge sheet. So this fridge sheet is sent home to students and families with a welcome to the transition process letter in October. So this really kicks off our transition process. Letter from me, fridge sheet goes home. We ask families, keep this at your fingertips throughout the course of the year. We also send it electronically as well, so our families have it electronically. And this really details all of the events or major dates involved in our transition process. So I already talked a little bit about our November event, which is our kickoff, all about generating excitement, getting students and families into LT sooner so that they can learn about all of the great things that we have to offer. And then we have a little bit of a pause on our events until January, and I'll send, when we return from winter break, I'll send another communication to families. It'll basically summarize the 2 January events, 2 big events, which is a registration virtual meeting where we talk through all aspects of the registration process, share a bit about the placement letter that they'll get in a week or so, and then also the process for selecting electives and all the awesome resources that we have to help them make a strategic choice. January 24th of this year is our Future Freshman Night, and that is really all about course registration, learning about the amazing electives we have. On that night, Scott and I will do a welcome. We'll recap some of the main points that we shared the week prior in the registration webinar, which is posted to the website, and then we will have an immersive elective fair in our field house. So all of our departments will have setups and be doing demonstrations. Students and staff will be there talking about courses within all of our academic departments, focusing on those courses that our freshman students can take. So we like the format webinar. We talk a little bit about what they can do. They can look at the APG. We have some videos that are posted to the website. We keep those on our Class of 28 site, and then we share tips for engaging in Future Freshman Nights. We have our elective fair, and then we have a series of presentations, and really families can pick the presentations that best meet their needs. We offer most of them 4 or 5 times, and a couple of them 2 times. We do an AP panel. This year we're adding a college-bound course selection presentation based on some feedback that we got, registration recap and questions. So if people still have more questions after the webinar, we have an opportunity for them to connect and just get a summary of what that process looks like. First-time LT families has been a really popular presentation for those that are new to LT. I'm probably missing 1 or 2, a core area presentation. So really focused event, all about preparing students and families for registration, which will take place in just a few weeks. Then they get their placement letter. So following that event on the 24th, on the 25th, we do an email where each family will get their student's placement letter that'll detail their placement recommendations for math, science, English, and in some cases world languages as well, with other notes on how they will make their selections for elective courses. We do have all of our counselors go out to associate schools. That is something that is really important to us. It's important to us that all of our incoming students have an opportunity to sit with an LT counselor when they are making those final requests and registering for courses. So hopefully by the time that they've done that, they've done their research, they've talked to their families, they have a good idea of what they might want to take for their freshman year. And then we offer an on-site opportunity to do that for any of our students who are currently in private or parochial schools. And then we always put on this sheet February 15th, which is the final day for any course selection changes. Throughout the time that we're talking to students and families, we are really explicit with the fact that we are sharing placement recommendations in those core areas, but there is an opportunity and a process if students or families want to discuss those placements. So we certainly view it as a collaborative process, and we share that from the time that we get on that registration webinar, and families have a window of time to get in contact with us to make changes. And then in the spring, we have our online registration process, which is really for all of our students, but we put it on this fridge sheet so that families know there's still some more steps that they're going to have to take throughout the course of the timeline. 2 other notes with our event sheet, something that we just put a small note on the bottom, something that we launched this year based on feedback from the principals was our road show. So this fall, we went out to our associate schools ahead of the kickoff event, really just to continue to have more contact with our students at our associate schools. We brought student leaders and some members of our administrative team and really shared some information about what to expect at the kickoff, as well as just some awesome things that we have to offer at LT. We plan to go out again prior to future freshman night, so another road show in the spring. And then our Class of 2028 website is really a hub of information. We started that several years ago, possibly during COVID or before, but we put all communications that go out specifically to the class, any materials or resources that students and families need. Right now we're working on an FAQ video testimonial series where we've generated a list of frequently asked questions, and instead of just publishing a written document that we post, we're going to put some video testimonials of current South Campus students. So this has been something that our families have really appreciated, translated into Spanish as well on the back of that document. So that's the transition timeline. And the final thing that I'd like to talk about tonight, and you have two copies, one in English and one in Spanish at your seats, is our 9th grade preparedness document. So over the course of the past year, we've committed considerable time to thinking about what it means to be prepared for 9th grade at LT. And the goal of these efforts was not only to help solidify our own common understanding of 9th grade preparedness, but to better be able to articulate this description to our families, students, and community. And the work was really predicated on the following questions. What are the key concepts and skills for incoming 9th graders within each discipline? And what learner behaviors set a student up for success in each discipline? As we began grappling with the questions, 9th grade teachers within core disciplines provided feedback regarding academic concepts and learner behaviors that they believe lead to 9th grade preparedness. Early in the process, our leadership team determined that the first iteration of this document would focus on academic concepts, and the next step would be identifying learner behaviors aligned with preparedness. Our DCs reviewed the 8th grade standards within core areas in order to create a draft of the academic concepts that lead to preparedness by discipline, and feedback was garnered by 8th grade teachers through departmental articulation meetings. And it was important to us that there was a lot of voice in this process and that there was a feedback loop in which teacher voices from LT and our associate schools were represented. And the result of this work is a one-page resource that articulates high school readiness skills by content area. It was collaboratively developed and rooted in content area standards, and the resource provides a quick view of the skills necessary for high school academic readiness at LT. The efforts have helped us consolidate our own thinking and understanding around 9th grade preparedness and has left us better equipped to build on the readiness once students enter our halls. It's our hope that our learning around 9th grade preparedness and the subsequent resource we've created that captures that learning is a starting point for focused articulation conversations and collaborations with our associate schools. So we might have a lot of questions at this point in time on how exactly we're going to use this document. And right now, we view it as the conversation really has just started. But I know Dr. Waterman's talked to the associate school superintendents. We've shared it with principals. Dr. Buys and his division chair colleagues have shared it. Scott shared it. And there's excitement about the possibilities of what this type of tool and resource can do to support not just high school readiness, but curriculum development at the grades prior to 8th grade as well. So probably don't have all the answers, but more questions. And I think that's a good thing when you create something like this that really can be a community resource. Our next step is to identify learner behaviors aligned to 9th grade preparedness, and we found out really quickly that these efforts intersect with our portrait of a graduate. So the portrait, as you all know, is part of our strategic plan adopted in June of 2022, and initial feedback that was garnered from teachers on 9th grade preparedness really does align to the dispositions that are included within the portrait of the graduate. So that's why we took a little bit of pause. We want that work to intersect and align to each other. So the efforts will allow us to better articulate what the competencies and dispositions within that portrait look like. And we're thinking at both early high school and later high school years, which will then be used to describe learner behaviors aligned to ninth grade preparedness. So a lot of potential there, and we anticipate doing that work during the second semester and have done some of that work during the first semester. So a lot of opportunities to bring teacher voice and student voice into that process as well.
Probably a good place to pause with strategy 2 and questions, concerns, thoughts, comments.
Go first.
So I have a question. So looking at the math, and this isn't the first time I brought it up, but when we look at the portrait of a graduate, and then you look at the skills that are necessary, especially as it relates to students having taken algebra in 8th grade, by 8th grade. But this doesn't really address that. I know that you kind of like have the skills of what Algebra Prep 1 are and then accelerated, but I think like it seems like what you've articulated, like this is coming from like maybe the feeder schools and some of our teachers, or
This is from our teachers.
but okay, so but if we're going to be pushing for students having taken algebra by 8th grade, then this doesn't address that.
Yeah, I think what this does is it shares the reality that we have students coming to us who have taken algebra and who have not.
Right.
And so I could see the conversation evolving as we continue to work with our articulation team, certainly. But right now, it's responsive to the fact that we have students who are coming, having taken that course, and those that have not.
Right, and understood. But when I look at it from when you look at it as a portrait of the graduate, then we also should have like that forward-looking view. I appreciate all of this too,
Sure.
and all of this work, and but I'm just like, if that's where the ideal state is also, and also where, you know, one of the larger 102 feeder schools where they feel that, you know, algebra is more of an accelerated path, then like that mindset like also has to change. But are those conversations going to be had at some point? I mean, I know that we can't change, but if this is where, you know, Perry has helped us to identify that on the track of what the portrait of a graduate should be, especially in math. And even too, I think, Scott, you had said in one of our last meetings that if you haven't taken algebra by 8th grade, then you almost have like not a big chance of really surviving on the SAT in math. So like it seems like that's a very important like guide or benchmark that we should also really like hone in on.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly have that goal. I know that the feeder schools have that goal, right? But it's not about having the goal. It's about readiness too. So if 8th graders aren't ready for algebra, it's not about just putting them in the class. And so I guess I disagree a little bit in that this can be a good vehicle for those conversations that really haven't been happening in a systemic way. I know that like our superintendent group from a year ago, even without this document, we haven't even started this work yet. The first thing that they all said to me was, this type of information will inform our programs. Not at the 8th grade level, but at the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade leading up to 8th grade. So now, and I literally shared this with them 3 weeks ago. So now that they have that information, now they're going to be able to look at this and see where the entry point is within their districts to make sure that they're making progress towards that goal. Many goals, but to your point, the goal of getting 8th graders into algebra. Are they going to be 100% there? I think that's going to be difficult because it is a readiness discussion as well, but this is absolutely a vehicle for those conversations.
Right, and I understand that. And I understand the fact that that not all 8th graders are going to be ready by that point, but the vast majority where you have maybe 60% coming from 102 and probably higher from some of the other districts that are already have taken algebra, then there's still then that 20 to 30% that is chronically going to be at a certain level that if we're not looking to really push the whole system, then it's never going to change.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's just my point about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I would like to elaborate to what Michael is saying because I had been perplexed personally as a parent, since the, junior high years, perceiving, how it was advertised that algebra was indeed, taking it in, I think it was 7th or 8th grade, I can't remember, but it is, perceived to be advanced. I think it's a joint responsibility, though, of also the high school to promote, what is really happening in reality. And part of it it's all tied, right? But how the course, because I took a look at the course catalog and seeing how those courses are labeled. It's like you have the path of accelerated, or, I think it's called, it's honors geometry, I believe, as a freshman, accelerated algebra, and pre-algebra. So
Preparatory.
Yeah, preparatory. So it's like, okay, well, what is considered, the way that they're labeled is just kind of a little misleading. Preparatory means, are you behind? Excel means you're advanced. And then honors is like super advanced. I don't know, right? And I think those have history already and requirements that you should have been taken and following that path. So it really is a joint effort, and it's just timely that, we're doing all of this right now. So to Michael's point, I think it's a joint responsibility between the schools and the high school. And I think those conversations should be had because, people are thinking in the community, oh yeah, we're advanced. And then it's like, you see the courses and it is really confusing. And this leads to, I guess, the maybe mainstream conventional, but maybe there should be the different paths for, okay, this is going to get you in this placement, this type of key academic, goals you should have if you want to follow this path. I think that there's room for more information to the community. And of course, 5th, 6th grade, it would even start then. But it's not too late in 7th and 8th grade for people to make adjustments. And it's actually very simple, for students, if they knew more, and parents, to encourage their students to take that algebra placement course. It's online. It's really not that hard. So, yeah, just
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. We all share the same goal. Again, we think this is a really good step, but we also know that we need to continue to be creative in
Right.
the collaboration we do with our associate schools so that we can meet that overall goal of getting students placed at the freshman level where they should be placed at.
Yeah, and
So I
again,
agree.
kudos, right? Because this is a great effort, and it's really hard, to nail everything down. It's just, something to kind of keep an eye on. That's all. And thank you for the
Yeah.
great work.
I would just say that I thought this was an excellent document, but I wanted to know, again, remind me, so this, you said this is new? This
Brand
is
new.
just-
This
so
was
just
shared
been
within,
shared
it
with-
was just shared with the associate schools 3 weeks ago.
Okay, and when you say the associate schools, do you mean parents to?
No, just superintendents, principals, and division chairs, or
Because I guess
department chairs.
I'm thinking too, like, as a parent, how valuable this kind of information is, and how critical this is, and I don't wanna see this in 8th grade. I wanna know about this, in 5th
7th
grade, or,
grade,
6th grade. I wanna know, and then I think, and again, because this is great, you guys, like, I think just started to kind of just crack the ice a little bit here with this, but like, if we keep coming back to that math requirement being such a point of contention where we need to bring our students up, and we need to find out where where some of the students are unable to be prepared in that role. So I think, as Alvia was kind of saying, like, it almost is like if you could give some kind of visual map to a parent I mean, and the schools have it, I'm sure, but like, just to reiterate and hit home, that when your child is sitting in a class in 5th, 6th grade, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, that where they're going to go to get them to high school at that point, how important those steps are, and how important it is for them to be dialed in and working with their students, their teachers, the community, the principal at those feeder schools too, because it is going to take the parents to be a part of that as well. And they just probably don't realize it. You put a lot of faith in the people who are educating your students, and you expect that they're gonna put the student where they belong, and they do, but what parts could be missed or just overlooked that a parent should have an opportunity to speak out and say, because they're informed, because they have an opportunity to speak out on behalf of their child. So I love like where this is going. I think this map, I could see this getting some expansion and then having this be distributed more widely and broadly to the community.
Yeah, I mean, I think the opportunities are endless, right? I mean, again, we've just shared this on the surface but there's going to be a lot of opportunities for this to grow, and this isn't done, right? I mean, as Dr. Sharma talked about, we want to add the learner behaviors and skills to this, so we are just getting started with this.
That's going to be huge.
And
what they need to be able to do to succeed. They're not just what they need to know, but how they conduct themselves, how they learn the things that they learn. I think this is a really exciting story.
And looking at it like a curriculum document, right? It'll evolve and changes will be made, and we consider it a living document, and there might be additions to it. And I appreciate, Carrie, your point. One of the things I think I shared earlier when we meet with the principals in January, that's really going to be our first brainstorm on how are we going to collaboratively use this document and share this resource. I know our DCs have talked at articulation meetings, right, how they may use it and how this might engage conversation, foster conversation about certain skills, right? How are we teaching those skills in the junior high, and how are we teaching these skills at high school? And so they've had at LT, and they've had some of those conversations, but we'll be talking with the principals about how we feel like we should be sharing this more widely and what we should be doing in terms of using this as a resource.
So that's what I was going to ask too. Like, who gets this? So it sounds like you are not going to distribute this to parents or at any of the events in January yet.
Not yet. We might.
This one is what Jill's.
No.
I'm sorry. I was pointing to this event.
I don't know that we're quite there,
Okay.
but it may be a document that's part of the transition process in the future, but I don't know that we're quite there for January. I think we have some work to do with our associate school colleagues and our staff and our articulation teams before we get there, but I think it could definitely be part of that process.
They need to be prepared for what's going to come at them too once this is out there.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
I was just going to ask how receptive the feeder districts have been working with you on this. Pretty good?
I mean, from a superintendent level, they were super excited about this.
Great.
And
Principals
because
as well.
this is a systemic piece. What we have traditionally been relying upon is this information being shared from teachers and teacher groups that go to the feeder schools during the placement process. So this has been a more comprehensive really project to collect feedback from our divisions to identify what the academic skills are and then put it into this document.
So I guess my only question, and we talked about this a lot, so I feel like I'm exhausting it, but have there been actually explicit conversations with feeder schools to say, look here's where our math scores are for students that have taken algebra as an 8th grader. Your school district doesn't do that as an automatic or with high regularity, and here's the numbers that we have, or at least the conversation direct and explicit to say, this is what we're looking for our kids in math coming in.
Yeah, we share that data. We share data on grades and where students are, and then I've shared with them the breakdown by level of students who have been proficient like we've had here. Just as you look at those math standards in particular, if you can't do this, you can't do algebra. So this is even pre-algebra. So it's really important that we look at these as ways that students can be ready, because this is not a placement. We're not going to make tests out of this and say, well, you can't do these 4 things, therefore you've got to stay at this level. That would be the wrong way to use this. But to have that conversation to say, yeah, in order to do algebra, you really do need to understand order of operations. You really do need to understand fractions and how fractions work. And it may sound like, why are we talking about that at high school? For our students who go to COD, who are put in the developmental courses, they start over with fractions and order of operations and all the basics of math, because that is what you need for algebra to work. Algebra is all of that math, but with letters in it. Prior to that, it's just learning how to use math. So the more that we can get these things really communicated and an agreement on, then that readiness is there.
And I think back to several years ago when we were still operating with Illinois state standards, we had to jump in a year from Illinois state standards to Common Core standards, and it moved everything up with pretty quick. Like in a year, we had to do that. And I agree with you. It's not like we can just start throwing kids in Algebra 1 in 8th grade. They have to be prepared for that. That takes some curricular maps and sequencing that's going to evolve throughout the years, but it's not to say that it can't be done and can't be done fairly quickly. So I'm just glad that you guys are having a conversation. I think that's really
I meet with the curriculum directors monthly, and they're all doing curriculum review themselves because we're all dealing with the fallout from the pandemic. And so they're making changes in their reading programs, they're making changes in their math programs. I mean, everyone wants their kids to come to LT ready, right? And we want all our kids to leave LT ready for whatever the next thing is. So, we're absolutely working on that. I know I've been kind of a bug with Dr. Trell. I'm like, do not say this is mastery entry criteria, because that's not what it is. These are readiness, these are tools, these are things that kids should have under their belt that they're comfortable with. But if we were to give them a test of all these things, that's not fair. That's not what that is. What we're teaching uses these things. What we're teaching reinforces these things. We spiral these things with what we're teaching them next and say, hey, remember when you did this? Well, now we're doing it this way. So there is no expectation that someone walks in with every bullet point here ready to go. But the expectation is that every kid has been exposed to these things, and that our teachers are using these to build it to the next level.
It's like a success document, right? It's with this background knowledge, students are going to have a higher likelihood of success at the freshman year.
And not to beat a dead horse, and I wouldn't, but I think pretty much the number system and the expressions and equations, I'm pretty sure that that's what, at least in 102, like that's what they already are doing in the prep course in like 8th grade, 7th and 8th.
And we repeat it again freshman year, honors, geometry, everybody keeps going back to it. You got to.
And this could be outside of the context, but again, it's such a great document and it's creative that it just makes you think of all these other, avenues that we could go further. But it would be awesome if there was like a flow chart, and also like, because ultimately this would be used for parents as well at some point, right? Maybe. So if parents looking at it may be like, well, what class is gonna give my kid this? And then again, because LT has a different paths of the different levels, if parents can see what do they need in the grammar school that will get them to that path, to the different paths of the different levels for math, particularly because that's what we're beating the dead horse on, and ELA, because,
So
they're
to that point, we this is all based on Common Core. And those are the standards that the K-8 schools use, are the standards that we use. And they're the standards that are laid out by score bands. Mm-hmm. So there are middle school standards, and which has some of this verbiage. And there are also early high school and late high school. And that's what we're using in our curriculum reviews as well. So we aren't making these things up. We aren't thinking, boy, if they only understood how to do this. We're looking at those national documents. Because that's really the only way you can do it. You've got to ground it in national standards, because then we're using the same language, we're using the same standards, and we can have those conversations. And then, we can then talk about the placement based on the Illinois Assessment of Readiness, which is what is given through 8th grade to measure those standards, and then what we're doing now with SAT here. And there is a difference. SAT emphasizes some things versus others. SAT is designed to sort students for college placement as opposed to measuring just the Common Core standards. So there is a lot of conversation and explanation that we all go through just to sort of make that transition, because it is a transition from what is being measured and how it's being measured in 8th grade to how it's being measured freshman year.
So I do have a question. Like initially, my question was, and then you answered it in part, but you have it also translated into Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not sharing it with the parents, what's the purpose right now of the translation?
Well, we just want to have it so that when we are ready to share it, we have it, and then we have PDFs of both. So we've shared
Okay.
it with the principals in PDF form, because we may determine that we're going to not send a hard copy out to everybody, but we're going to utilize more of a PDF resource, in which case we would want both available.
Would it be possible, because I mean, there's space for a QR code on here for translation, because you're like, you know, like that's been a topic that we've talked about a lot, is like, I mean, obviously it's great to have the Spanish because that would be your most common,
Mhm.
but would there be an option then to have a Google Translate if you're doing that, so that you could translate into any language?
We could probably put it into a constant contact and then have a QR code that goes to a constant contact, which is the tool that we have that's translatable. So we could do that, yep.
Like, so you're doing it for one, I just would want
And
to
we would,
have that
but we
option.
would also be obligated, if a family identifies a different language in their home language survey, we would be obligated to provide it to them in that language.
I'm just thinking
Yeah.
like if you're coming and you're like grabbing it at like one of these
Yeah.
things, to have that
That's- I love
option.
the QR code idea.
Yeah,
Because
and using
there's a
a
little
platform
space down at the
Or on our
bottom.
website, like that's, yeah. that's a
Take
great
it and then
idea.
you can, I mean, it might be a link to someplace else to do it, but it just kind of lends itself to the bottom.
Yeah, I like
with
that idea.
Yeah, it's good. And I think just to go back to Elvia's point, like your example of how families could use this sixth, 7th, 8th grade course sequence, I would envision that would be a really creative idea that the feeder schools, once they get a chance to look at this, would say, I think we could use
Yeah.
it that way. Like
Yeah, yeah.
they just have, again, we gave it to them a few weeks ago, but they're going to generate really good ideas on how they're going to use this to inform their programming, to communicate with their parents, all of those things. So I think that would be one really good example of that.
Right, right. But the schools may not know your system, the LT's height, the LT's different paths. So that's why I think it's still so important that yes, because like, you know, they would know in what courses they're going to cover these, what that translates to, the different, you know, paths within the district at the feeder schools. But then LT knows, you know, in translation, what comes after. That's why it's like so important to have that connection. And again, this is just, you know, thinking beyond, just because, you know, it does seem like, and for all levels, right? Why just stick to, you know, a mainstream or the majority? We are, but it's good to give families the different options so that you don't really have to know only if you have an older kid that already went through it and you wish you would have known. You want everybody to know, whether you're new to the community, whether you've had a high schooler or not, because we do have a wide diverse, you know, of community members. So, thank you.
I just want to make one brief comment. I think this is great, and I heard you on the very front end say, you know, this is the start, and it's going to evolve and so forth. And I think all this conversation like highlights the many things that I expect will come out of this. Scott, you when you spoke, you took care of the one thing I was going to check in with you on, which is that this is Common Core. You know what I mean? So some of the things related to Common Core all the way up, from K all the way through 12th grade, this really shouldn't be a surprise to anybody at any of the feeder districts, because if they're aligning their curriculums with Common Core, there should be a flow all the way through. And then to Michael's point, which I think is important, you mentioned, and I remember, I think it was last year, Brian, you went to you invited the superintendents from all of our associate schools in to share with them our strategic plan. Do you have the other associate schools done that with everyone as well? Like, do you? I mean, I'm just wondering, like, if we had view into those strategic plans, if we would see a goal to increase the number of kids that are, entering and achieving in Algebra 1. I personally would love to know that, you know, if that is something that is on their strategic plans, because to Michael's point, you have to back it way down. Like, it starts, I'm guessing it starts in 3rd grade, probably 4th grade, like, to be able to build that
Number
right?
systems is kindergarten.
So kindergarten, so.
No, I've not, but I can
It
dig
would
into
be-
that more,
I think it would be really interesting to know if that is
And then unpack it to that level, yeah.
a deliberate
I can look at it.
goal on the part
Right.
of the associate schools and who has it. Frankly, I wish we had view into their strategic plans, much like you gave them view into ours, because it's one of the challenges of not being a unit district. Because, everybody is doing their own curriculum, even though it's aligned to the Common Core, still there are obviously nuances and so forth. But anyway,
Yep.
back to this. I think it's great. I look forward to seeing how it evolves. I think it's a fantastic articulation tool, and a lot of effort I can see went into all of this. So thank you.
Yeah, a lot of feedback from teachers, associate school teachers, also our division chairs. As Scott shared, multiple rounds of feedback and updates, but just the beginning of something that we, as we can see tonight, we can build upon.
There's a lot of excitement around it, so thank you.
And great job on making additions to the transition timeline too. That's huge.
That's what I wanted to just make sure we commented on, because you spent a lot of time walking through, having transitioned 3 kids over the past 4 years to LT. It's super exciting when this shows up. And the way that every year you keep iterating on it, you're meeting everybody where they are. The future freshman night can be really overwhelming for some kids. So you've got the webinars, you've got the videos, but for some kids, because we talk about feeder districts, but there are a lot of other schools that feed into LT where they don't have any exposure or conversations or get to have a road show. And this is so important for those kids too. So you guys do a great job. It gets better every year. Thank you.
And sorry, I just wanted to tap on it a little bit because I kept thinking about when you were presenting the sense of belonging kept coming through my head, right? Like we want our kids to buy into LT. We want them to get involved. Our involvement rate is already really high, which is amazing. I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the roadshow that you guys do, but bringing Peter, get us to the table and talking about our activities and clubs and all those kinds of things, I just think is phenomenal. So thank you guys for all your work on this.
Jump into strategy 3, which is career pathways. So we're going to do two things tonight. This can often be confusing into what a career pathway is as defined by the state. So Scott's going to remind all of us just about the requirements with career pathways and then versus core sequences. And then Dan is going to give a little bit of a where we've been, where we are, and where we're going with our existing career pathways. So Scott, I'll turn it over to you first.
All right, so I'm sure you've all read the Post-Secondary and Workforce Readiness Act from 2016. But that's where all this comes from. It's called the Power Act, and ultimately it was some bipartisan legislation in Illinois that led to a number of things, including post-secondary and career expectations framework guides, which is basically industry was saying to schools, here's what we need. So this document that we have for 8th graders, those have been created also for industry to schools, saying here's what we're looking for, here's what kind of students we're looking for, here's what it's like in the workplace, here are the soft skills that you should be working on, all those things. That led to the idea of college and career pathway endorsements on high school diplomas. So if you look at our APG, you'll see that Algebra 1 leads to geometry, leads to Algebra 2, leads to honors geometry. That's a pathway, absolutely. It's not a career pathway. Obviously, you can be a mathematician, you can teach math, but it's not designed to prepare a student to be in a career. The career pathways do more than just the listing of courses. Absolutely, there's a sequence of courses. The courses have to build on one another, and the way that they've been designed is consistent not only throughout the state but throughout the nation. It's something that is tied into Perkins funding, so we take that money. But the important thing for this conversation is there are courses that are designed all the way through for different pathways. We offer some of them. We don't offer all of them. Technology Center DuPage offers a whole lot of them, so we send kids there and then they can do some things there as well. What changed with the PWR Act is they were saying, you know what, we need to do better than just say take these 4 courses. We need to add more into it. And so in order to create a career pathway, you have to have required courses. And they have to be at different levels. They have to be an introductory, they have to be more advanced, there have to be application courses. You have to be able to earn college credit in a pathway. So you have to get up to 6 hours of college credit earned through dual credit. So that's a part of the pathway. The classes can be 1 or 2 semesters long, it doesn't really matter, but you have to embed in a career exploration. And that's more, you heard it, I think, from some of the classes, the kids tonight. Our radio and TV program is a good example of that. They hear from industry leaders. They have teachers who were in the industry before. And that's true of all of our CTE teachers. Our CTE teachers have to have 2,000 hours of experience in the content area that they teach to get that degree. So they have that experience. The couple new things that they've added to this pathway are what are called team-based challenges. So recognizing that in industry and in the world of work, people work more in teams than in rows, they have to build in team-based challenges into that pathway. And once you do that, you have opportunities for kids to do, like you saw with Incubator, creating a product, bringing it to market. You see how they're seated in circles or in teams as opposed to in rows. So those things change. And lastly, there has to be career development experience. Can be an internship. It's got to be 60 hours, though, in order to get the pathway endorsement. There has to be that career development component. Now, we approach that a couple of different ways. One of those, like as we're looking at with our aviation program, we're going to be getting that through actually using drones on our property because we're allowed to. We're not allowed to use drones on other people's property, but we can use drones on our property up to a certain height. Our kids can map our roofs. Our kids can map out our athletic fields. They can map out our parking area. They can redesign the parking spaces. They can do lots of really cool stuff using the drones, and that's all a part of that career development experience. One of the fastest growing components, if you've sold a house recently or looked at one online, is the drone view of the house, right? So that's a tool that's really necessary and useful. So when you look in these pathways, they're a whole lot more than just that sequence of courses. And on top of all of it, we have to have community partners. And having those meetings with community partners, we need to make sure that we are moving kids in pathways that are leading to jobs in need and in demand, as opposed to just, it would be kind of cool if I could do X, Y, or Z. So we've been expanding our structure as well to have those meetings, and Technology Center DuPage has been helping a great deal by having those meetings as well. So with that, I'll let Dan take you through sort of the way that we put these together. We just submitted for 4 pathways for students beginning with this year, and Dan's going to talk to you a little bit about how that happens.
Cool. Thank you, Scott, and hello, everyone. I've been sitting here at the end of the table for a while, so I'm excited to have my chance to jump in.
You, dude.
So like Scott was saying, right, for the pathways, there's a lot of real requirements that the state outlines. And so what we did as a CTE department last year is we made, and Dr. Waterman, you can go to the next slide, Dr. Waterman, just put it on the screen there. For lack of a better word, like an audit. So during our time together, when we met with our CTE departments, we looked at this document and we said, let's just kind of think and look at our courses and our potential pathways and see what do we have and what do we not have, right? And so Scott went through some of those things that are on there. And what that allowed us to do was just to get an initial idea last year of some of the work that was ahead of us. And so what we did then is we took that and we decided on where we were going to go first, right? And so the first one that you saw a couple slides ago was our education, right? And a lot of the reasons we went for that was it just made sense with the courses we had, with the internship opportunities, different things like that we knew we had to get checked off, and we were already doing a lot of those things. As we're thinking about prioritizing what we're doing moving forward, right, Scott had said we're moving towards aviation. That is one where we feel like we have basically all the pieces in place. We are also looking, and again, it's in your packet, and it's on slide 16, I believe, or no, 14. We have some other ones within radio and TV, and within our department, specifically CTE, the ones we're looking at next are business, specifically entrepreneurship, and then we're also looking at our computer programming for very similar reasons, right? We have some of these courses already built out. We know what our potential internships could be. We can work with our team-based challenges and things like that. So we're very excited about those. you can go to the next slide there, Dr. Wardman. When we start thinking, though, about like what are those other potential pathways coming down the pipeline, right? What we are doing this year within our CTE department, and I apologize that that's a little bit smaller, but I'll read some of the questions that we have, is we took that audit and we took it a step further this year. And so myself and our assistant chair for CTE, we really kind of thought, what are the questions that we want to have specific answers for? And so some of those questions that we have in here, right, are thinking about curriculum changes that we may need to make. Because if we want these pathways a couple years down the road, we got to be thinking a couple years down the road. We have some questions in here to our teachers, right? Like, what are some budgetary things that we need to start planning for now, that if we're going to make these pathways a reality, we need to start thinking that we need to let Brian know, in advance, so that we don't come knocking on his doorstep the day before we need it. So
real quickly, he's looking at page 160 of your packet, too, if you want to follow along in the board packet, or it's up on the screen. Sorry, Dan.
No problem. So those are questions that we're asking teachers now to really kind of get that ball rolling so that we can then prioritize also on a larger school level. Hey, these are the pathways that are probably the smartest for us to pursue, and these are ones that are still valuable, but maybe we should hold off for now, and we want to look at these in future years. So that is really the work within our CTE department over the past year-ish. One thing we're really focusing on, kind of doing a deep dive on this year, is those team-based challenges. So the team-based challenges, like Scott said, I just have a printout here that I'm going to read some of the things for you from the state. It's an authentic problem. It's something where students interact in a meaningful way. They demonstrate competencies towards whatever area they're working towards, and then they just are working collaboratively in groups, right? And so Scott gave really one of the best examples that we have with the incubator. We also do some things with team-based challenges on our intro to business with their Shark Tanks. But there's really, when you think about team-based challenges, it really doesn't need to be overcomplicated. So if we're looking at our teaching internship, one team-based challenge that they do that really checks the box for the state, they take our LT students, they go to Brookfield Zoo with the lens of how could we make a Brookfield Zoo trip something that we could take our elementary students to. And so that is a team-based challenge where they work together as LT students. They say, hey, we're going to go to this exhibit. We're going to ask the students X, Y, and Z. We're going to do blank. And so they use that as a team-based challenge. Scott mentioned using drones. Dave Root with our aviation last year, this is a real thing, right? B&G had a question. We had some drones. We used them. They got to look into the gutters, right? Like, here's where our clog is. I don't know what was going on with the gutters. I forget that part. But they were able to kind of work together with B&G. And that was a team-based challenge because they had the students in groups. They were working with an industry professional, with someone from our B&G department, and they had Dave as that mentor, right? So they were solving a real-world problem. So when I personally thought about like incubator, right, that seems like a pretty extensive team-based challenge, right? Almost a little bit intimidating in some ways, but there's other things that are really pretty reasonable that we can do. And so what we're doing with our CTE teachers, again, as like a deep dive this year, is we're trying to establish 2 team-based challenges for all of our potential pathways. And we see that as having value in 2 ways, really. Number 1, if we go down that pathway road, it's going to check the box. But number 2, these are real-world learning opportunities for our students. So even if this is not something that is an official pathway this year, next year, even the year after that, these are ways that we can take the learning that we're doing in our classes, make it real to students, apply it to real-life things, and we feel like that makes that learning more valuable to them. So we really have a lot of exciting things on the horizon with pathways. We're super happy to say the least with the work that teachers have put into it. It is a lot of work to start to think through these things and to really start to look at your curriculum and work with your teams and redo the way you've been doing some things. But the reality is a lot of our teachers are there already, right? Because they see the value in these things and they were ahead of the curve too. So we're really excited about it, and I'll pause there as well. Scott, anything I'm missing that you want to add before we open it up?
We did submit for approval last year, the education, which was approved. We renewed it for this year, and then we added 3 more: aviation, computer programming, and entrepreneurship. And then Dan and I kind of mapped out on the whiteboard in my office where we're kind of going the next year. Radio, TV, you'll probably see a curriculum change proposal in the fall. We've always had kids take television more than once, but they just kept getting duplicate credit. If we create an additional course and another additional course, which they're already doing anyway, we now have everything we need for that pathway when you compare it with radio as well. So, some of this is just looking at things a little differently, knowing that, what the philosophy or the theory of it is versus what we've been doing, and just sort of tweaking it a little bit so that it fits the mold. and ultimately, students will graduate with endorsements on their high school diploma doing this. So that's our next big task to tackle too, is how are we tracking all this? How are we making sure kids are checking all the boxes, and then they're able to graduate with a education endorsement or computer programming endorsement.
Probably a little bit of a note of how employers might use that endorsement, or colleges might use that endorsement, but the endorsement would be there.
But they are definitely tied to community colleges, and a lot of the work-based areas have very strong community college components, and so they're definitely looking for that, because that also shows that the student is doing more than just showing up and taking classes. One of the pieces we have to build in also is a transitional math instruction component, which we have to, again, so that students are earning credit, they're not in remediation. And so it's pretty exciting, I think, especially in the old days of, well, you can always just do that. Well, now it's, no, actually, in order to do that, you need to do this, that, and the other thing, and that actually prepares you to be successful in this area, rather than just going, I'll just do that now. And I also wanted to add too, because Ed Tenet's here, our computer programming kids actually get hired by Ed in the summer. They have to do the exact same industry tests that anyone would walking in off the street. When they pass that test, then they have the opportunity to work in the summer, so we already have that internship lined up. So, and certainly team-based challenge with our cyber defense club too. So again, we're kind of excited. That one should be a slam dunk.
I would just add one thing. I had the opportunity last year to observe on one of our school improvement days. So the work that Dr. Bies is talking about, that happens in the afternoon of those school improvement days. And our CTE teachers, right, the auditing process, it's a lot of work to do a deep dive into your curriculum, your instructional practices, the activities that you're using. And they really were excited to have that time to be able to dig in and really look into how close are we, where are we, and what do we need to do if pathways might be the goal. So they appreciate that time to work with their colleagues as they're auditing their program areas.
So last year I went to the III conference, and I attended one of the CTE workshops that they had, and one of the biggest challenges that they had as a group, and I don't know how we're addressing this, but I mean, I think it's great and great work in the pathways that you developed, was looking at the overall curriculum that students may have to choose between, like, whether or not they take the foreign language, like all of their foreign language requirements, given where they can fit in the different electives to be able to be a part of taking up pathways, and then also, you know, dual pathing to have their requirements for, if a foreign language, to have 3 years of that as part of, you know, college entrance as well. So has that been considered? Like the overarching
yeah, they are two things working at cross purposes at the state level. So kids absolutely have limited space in their schedules, and there's a real concern about a 3-year language requirement at the CTE level. I don't see it being as great of an impact here at LT because our students are able to take 7 classes, but there are some high schools where you're only allowed to take 5. Or those that are on block schedule where you can only, you can only get 6 or 8 shorter ones. It sort of depends on how they've set it up. So it's a real concern because the national move is PWR Act, career pathways, Perkins legislation, and but in the state of Illinois, this is a push for languages. So, you know, as a curriculum director, I want all of them to be successful. I don't have a favorite. But when you look at what needs to happen to have a pathway and for a kid to really go into it, it is going to be a challenge. And you know, I think we can certainly address it a couple different ways. Every year there seems to be another desire to make a 3rd-year requirement of science or a 4th-year requirement of math and 3 years of a language instead of 2 now, all those kinds of things. And it's tough. In my career, I believe we've added 4 full classes to graduation requirements since when I started, and that's almost a semester of school. And so where does that fit and where does it come from? So it is a challenge.
It's the same challenges that exist for our students who want to attend TCD. And Scott mentioned earlier that TCD has a whole separate list of courses that offer, or course sequencing that offer career pathways in addition to ours, but those same challenges that you have to clear up that space in your schedule to get to the point where you can get out there.
I think this is great. I think this is such an important area in education right now. It's such an important area in high school. So I'm really excited that you're taking this critical and developmental look at it. So just to use the 4 that are approved right now, like I'm going to use computer programming. Right now, as we have that approved, are high school students graduating with endorsements?
So we just proposed it this year. We hope to have it approved by February.
Okay.
And then we'll be looking at who has the endorsements and who has all the different components. So that's our next piece, is to collect that information. But again, that's not difficult to pull together.
And all 4 of these are kind of in that same situation? Okay.
Yeah, education we've had for quite a while, but we didn't run one of the classes last semester or last year due to low enrollment. So again, as we look at how we run classes and when we run classes, this may be a topic of conversation for, whether we run a class with 8 kids or not, because all 8 will get endorsements versus not. So again, it's a resource allocation challenge sometimes too.
And what about like the healthcare classes that we are new? Is that a potential strand or potential career pathway?
It's potential. So I've done a lot of research on that one because A, we have a hospital so close, and B, it's one of the highest demand career areas. The challenge is, in order to create that pathway, you have to have people certified in a way that teachers are not certified. And so a lot of times schools have not gone with a pathway in that direction because you need at least someone with a CNA to teach 1 or 2 of the classes. And oftentimes the schools that do it, they partner with the community college, and the students go over their junior and senior year, or a portion of junior and senior year. And given our proximity to COD, that's really not manageable. However, kids can go to TCD for that medical pathway, and by taking our intro to medical careers and our medical terminology class, they now know if they want to make that jump rather than just blindly going their junior year. So I think that's certainly a direction. It's one I really wanted more than any other, but it is proving to be challenging.
And like, for some of those requirements, can you access online? Like, can you, like, to your point about some of these courses not being run because we have low enrollment,
Mhm.
Are there other ways that we can provide opportunities for 8 students to take the course that still feeds into LT to help them achieve that without us running all of those in-house?
Again, that would be, so that the one class that didn't run was a dual credit through COD, so we would need them to go to COD. And so then they would need to give up other things to go there. So again, it's just a matter of also looking back and building the program. So if we don't have, so one of the curriculum change proposals we made and approved last year was to offer that teaching internship course a year earlier, so that students have more of an opportunity, so they don't have to make that decision just that senior year. So we also offered a new fashion merchandising class. Well, that now gives us the courses along the way. We're now working on getting our teachers certified so that they can have dual credit in those classes. And again, those are some of the ways we're just slowly sort of building capacity for some of these. But yeah, as we look at those, we certainly want to build a pathway that's also popular, that kids are able to take and want to take.
Yeah, I think I'm really happy to hear this, and this is something that I know will just continue to expand. I mean, I appreciate it. It sounds like, if I'm understanding everything properly, it sounds like in some areas we have the courses, but we may not have been meeting the individual plan, professional learning, career-focused instruction, and academic readiness components. Thereby, those particular courses just need to be restructured to make sure we do those. And then in other areas, we actually have to add classes.
Mhm.
So I would imagine that those requests to add classes will come through the typical process that we look at. And I just want to say I'm super excited about this program expanding at LT. I think it's critical that these programs expand in high schools throughout the United States to give kids the variety of options that are needed. So I'm super excited about this.
One of the things you'll notice too, when we talked about equal opportunity schools, we not only shared AP data, we shared dual credit data. And we see that as one of the best ways to close that gap is through dual credit, because colleges see dual credit as college credit. That's the point of it. And so you're not just taking a test and hoping you get credit. And when it's aligned to a career interest that a student has, and the student knows they can go COD if they want, they can go to a four-year college if they want, and follow that pathway, that's really powerful too. And so the earlier they can say, well, yeah, I can do this, I just earned college credit in it, the better, which is why it's a component of the pathway.
Yeah, it's excellent, and it also goes to the whole inclusion aspect too, and making students feel welcome, and that we have something for every student, regardless of the different tracks that they're going to take to get there. So again, I'm thrilled to see this. It's very exciting. I look forward to seeing it develop even further. But great work and what you're doing. I'm thrilled.
I just think it's really funny that Mike brought up the III conference, because I literally wrote down as we were talking about the awards and things that we've been doing in these pathways, I'm thinking, boy, this would be a really great III presentation. I'll throw that out there just as an idea.
Co-present?
I mean, I did it 2 years ago. It's fun. I enjoyed that kind of thing. But no, I think the more we can highlight the ways that we can do and kind of show off some of the things that we've done and make it accessible to other school districts is always kind of a kudos for us also, because the work that you guys have been doing with this is phenomenal.
I guarantee you we'll be the only school in the state with an aviation pathway.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we had to create that part. When I went in, I had to find Embry-Riddle, I had to create them as a vendor, I had to create the courses, so all that was not there, and now it is, and so that's pretty cool.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's great.
And Tim, that's a good point. When I sat in a couple of those panels, I was like, we need to be here. We need to be
for sure.
applying to do a panel. So, I mean, bring it is what I'd say. Let's figure out how to do that. That's great.
I do have a question, though.
Sure.
When you said, when we look at the class enrollments, it would be really helpful, I think, when we look at keeping those classes next year, if you could note them of what we are, because that might impact us wanting to keep a class, whereas last year we were I don't remember the numbers, but there were some that didn't have a high enough enrollment. But I think to commit to this as a board, and as a school, we want to make sure that we keep those classes, because you wouldn't want the kids to work so hard at it. And you might not have 12 kids that want to do a pathway, but I would just like to see that noted so that we can make that choice then to support the kids.
We absolutely can. Those reports come from my office when we do that. We can absolutely make those notes. You may recall, we generally have 2 reports around that time. We'll have a capstone course enrollment, which would be the culminating course of a lot of these pathways. But then you may also recall we may have some courses along the way where enrollments are below 18. Anytime those courses fall into one of those pathways, we definitely make note of that and say, if we were to not offer this, here are kind of the impacts of it. We could certainly denote it visually as well too, so it is there. But absolutely, it is certainly something we take into consideration.
I think that would be great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You don't want to have the kids work so hard and then have
absolutely
one class where they're
well,
right.
And also the more kids that we get to do it, to complete it, hopefully that's they start talking, and the more demand it creates.
Right, but it might
to build
need
it.
some time to ramp up, and I would just feel so bad for the
No,
kids.
that's what I'm saying. Like completing those courses, even if it's 8 kids or 12 kids,
correct,
probably will help in the future enrollment of those courses as well, because we have it as a complete care pathway.
And then having it be, Brian, when you had said you don't know the impact, because that was another question I had upon what for college and things like that, but we won't know until we know.
No,
you know what I mean?
sure.
But to have that, to make sure that we can follow through with it, would be my.
Absolutely.
Converse is also true. We've begun having conversations like, well, where does this course fit? I mean, it's a cool class and all, but is this still necessary, or is it, so, and that's sort of the other side of the coin as well, because we want to make sure we have the space and capacity for everything as well. So we did, you'll notice we did remove family health issues last year. It wouldn't fit in the health pathway. It didn't really fit in the other areas, and the enrollment was low. And so like, well, this is one we should probably let go. So we're doing that as well as part of our curriculum review.
Excellent. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or thoughts? So that's essentially goal 4.
Yeah.
3 strategies, obviously. We will have a quick turnaround to the January 9th board meeting when we will highlight goal 2.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you all for that. That was very informative and lots of exciting things going on there. So that concludes all of our unfinished and new business for this evening. And next we have reached the consent agenda portion of our meeting. Our consent agenda includes the following items: payment of bills and financial statements for LTHS and LADSI for the month of November 2023. Human resources items for LTHS and LADSI. Review and approval of the meeting minutes, open and closed sessions. Overnight student travel and donations. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Marilyn, will you please call the roll?
Member Dillon?
Yes.
Member Gretsch? Yes. Member Nava?
Yes.
Member Thomas?
Yes.
Member Alvarez?
Yes.
Member Vita Daniels?
Yes.
Member Albert?
Yes. Okay, great. Next, we have our second opportunity for public participation. Marilyn, do we have any?
No.
Okay, great. The board will not be going into closed session after our meeting. We have now reached the adjournment portion. I wish everybody happy holidays. Hopefully there are lots of time spent with family and friends and rest and relaxation and all the good things that go along with all of that. With that, may I have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
So moved. I guess that's everything.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, everyone. Our meeting is adjourned.
Happy holidays,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Good night. Have a good week.
And thank you, everybody,
Thanks
for
for
the
the-
gifts.